What's up guys, this is Aarav, and today I'm going to be doing a roleplay in the Business Finance Series event in the instructional area of financial analysis. And this is to give you guys a better understanding of what is a good roleplay for the state's competitions and how to best perfect your study methods going into the competition to perform as well as you can. So today I'm going to be using Prolo.ai to generate my roleplay and score it, and at the end I'll just break down my roleplay as well and give some more tips for the state competitions. Okay guys, so now I'm on Prolo.ai on the main dashboard page where I went to the roleplay generation feature to generate my prompt, questions, and performance indicators for the business finance series, financial analysis instructional area. And here's my prompt here. Take a couple of seconds to read through that. And then here are the performance indicators. You can read through that as well, and here are the questions. You can hide the questions if needed on Prolo, and for performance indicators, what's neat is you can practice these specific ones by just searching this up. Okay, so I'm gonna start my roleplay in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, John. My name is Aarav, and I'm the financial analyst here at Green Energy Solutions. Thank you so much for taking this time out of your day to meet with me. I really appreciate it. So over the past few quarters, I've observed a steady increase in our production costs, and this rise is affecting our profit margins and just limiting our competitive advantage in the solar energy market overall. I think our current challenge is to control these costs while maintaining just the quality of our solar panels. Particularly, we face issues with high raw material expenses and rising overhead costs as well, and additionally, inefficiencies in our production processes. Essentially, to address this problem, I've drafted a target cost reduction strategy, which is designed to just lower our overall production costs by around 10% in that range over the next fiscal year. So the approach really focuses on optimizing cost structures and then improving operational efficiency and making sure that any capital investments are safe and sound. So to walk you through my thought process, I create a 5-step agenda. The first thing I want to do is talk about the use of cost in managerial accounting. The second thing I'll do is mention the nature of managerial accounting. The third thing I'll mention is the variance analysis in managerial accounting. The fourth thing I want to talk about is evaluating cost factors using the CVP analysis. And the fifth thing I want to talk about is how we can calculate the time value of money. So I don't want to waste any more of your time. Let's dive straight into it. So first, starting off with the use of costs in managerial accounting. There are 4 different types of costs. The first one is direct costs, where basically expenses are directly related to production, like raw materials or assembly labor. The next one is indirect costs, which are overhead expenses. This can be anything like rent, utilities, or anything of that sort. And then some costs are costs that you've spent, but you can't get any ROI back for them. So for example, failed research and development costs for a product that we didn't choose to pursue. And the differential costs are additional costs when choosing one production method over the other. So if we choose premium over free, the differential is the differential cost. Essentially, being able to categorize these costs will really help us isolate like high impact areas. So for example, if raw materials are representative of 45% of our total production costs, as you can see here on this pie chart, even like a 5% reduction in this category can really help us have like substantial savings. And basically, by targeting some of these cost negotiations with suppliers and exploring alternative sourcing by trying to get rid of this 5%, we really can lower our direct material expenses, which will help us decrease our production cost by the 10% that I want to. The second thing I want to talk about is the nature of managerial accounting. Basically, managerial accounting is a tool that is used for internal decision making on finances. Basically, it's just offering some very detailed reports for planning, budgeting, and performance evaluation as well for a company. It's basically very forward-looking, and then it's just tailored to operational needs for a specific business, which if we use it, it will allow us to forecast production costs, set any benchmarks, and then just make sure that we have like a strategy, and then we can adjust it on the fly. I really think that at Green Energy Solutions, it's super important that we use this managerial accounting strategies to monitor our cost drivers. Basically, it will just help us like be able to track our budgets and then adjust like production plans to keep our costs under control, and then make sure that we hit that 10% reduction target, all to produce or decrease our costs by as well as keeping our quality high. So the thing I created was a trend analysis table to show this. Basically, it shows our historical overhead costs with forecasts for the next year and 4 quarters. And I think that if we identify a consistent 3% annual increase in utility expenses, we can really implement any energy saving measures to offset these costs as well. The third thing I want to talk about is the variance analysis test in managerial accounting. So variance analysis really just involves just comparing budgets, like budget figures with any performance at hand to identify and then understand any discrepancies that there are. Basically, some examples of this are to monitor specific variances, such as material cost variances and then labor efficiency as well. So we can basically identify like any overspending or inefficiencies that are happening with our financial like attributes. Basically, I think that for us, I think it's super important to monitor these variances. Like, for example, right, if an actual raw material that we're using exceeds our budget by, I'll throw a number out there, let's say like 20,000. A variance analysis basically just pinpoints whether the like issue is like our end, or like is like a production waste, or like a super high supplier pricing. So it's really important to address these variances, and it's really critical that we just hit these cost reduction goals by doing so. I think the best way to show it is through this bar graph I created, which basically just shows like it just contrasts budgeted like money versus actual costs, and with that we can see like what it is for material and labor, and then with that as well we can really just show a clear like 10% overrun or a 10% like decrease in labor costs as well. The fourth thing that I want to talk about is cost volume profit analysis, which is also known in the financial world as CVP analysis. So CVP analysis basically examines just the relationship between like costs, sales volume, and then operating profit as well. So it will help us identify things like our break-even point and contribution margin. It will really help us like by far model different scenarios, kind of like a simulation, so we can test like the impact of some of our moves that we're making and stress our strategies, so we can see that if there's a 10% increase, or like to see if we can get a 10% decrease in like our production cost as well. I think that an example of using this would just be in the sense of like if an increase in raw material costs basically just shifts our break-even point from $10,000 to 11,000 units, or 10,000 units to 11,000 units per quarter, like for every quarter. Basically, in this situation, the CVP analysis will just guide us in adjusting our pricing and then seeking further cost reductions to account for that 10% and maintain our good profit margins. I think the best way to show this is through a break-even chart. So basically here I drew a break-even chart where you can see our current and then projected break-even points. Essentially through this, it's super important to understand that our cost reduction methods will lower the break-even point, and it will just basically directly support our profitability target while also maintaining our high quality. And that's just because when we lower break-even point, our costs go down. So it's always great to have while trying to reach that 10% goal. Now, the last thing I want to do is talk about the time value of money calculations. So this is also known as TVM in the financial world. And basically, it's just like the idea that a dollar today is more valuable than a dollar, or a dollar today is more valuable than a dollar in the future due to its earning potential. Basically, like as we know, inflation is definitely a huge thing in our society today, and that's also one of the reasons that a dollar today is much more valuable than it will be in like a couple years, right? For example, right, back in like 1900s, $1, like the salaries were much less for employees because a dollar was worth much more. Now we see employees having $200,000 salaries, $100,000 salaries, opposed to when in the 1900s they were maybe making $40,000, $60,000 because just money was worth much less. Basically, there's a lot of basically TVM methods, like basically to evaluate if our future cash flows from investments will justify any initial costs, and I think it's something definitely we should apply and use. So it's just a tracking method, basically. For example, right, when considering, if we were having to consider like an $800,000 investment, like the graph, if we are considering an $800,000 investment, we'll have to make sure to just calculate that through our TVM calculations to find a overall better cost reduction strategy, which it will show. So I think that by far TVM is one of the better calculations to do, the more advanced ones, but obviously doing simple things like managerial accounting, maintaining budget sheets and stuff like that is the way to go. if we follow all these, I'm very confident that we can hit the 10% goal in this next fiscal year, this reduction of 10%, or yeah, 10% in this coming fiscal year. And I have no doubt that our team will be able to execute it. That's all that I have prepared for you today. Do you have any questions, comments, and concerns for me? Okay, so now I want to give a quick breakdown on my roleplay because I don't think it was the greatest. I would give this roleplay somewhere in the 80s range, and I think the content was a little bit hard to understand, especially in the end when all those hard terms were coming around, like TVM, the time value of money, which is something not all judges know. But I think my formatting really helped. So I'll just break down the goods, the bads, and then some of my thoughts as well. So starting with the goods, I think my formatting was really great, especially the fact that I came in with confidence in my introduction. And the judge was, when I watched it back, I thought the judge, being a judge, I thought it was like amazing to see how confident I was, and I myself was intrigued in listening to myself. So rule number 1, confidence is key, especially at the start, and formatting is key at the start, because that gets your judge in the mode of listening to what you're actually going to say. The second thing with my formatting is I think I really utilized the DECA acronym really well, which is define, explain, connect, and above and beyond. So I made sure to walk through the DEC, and then A was very strong with my graphs as well. However, I do think I lacked a bit in the content-wise going into the 4th and 5th performance indicator, because those were a little difficult. At the start, the first 3 performance indicators talked about managerial accounting. And in managerial accounting, it's pretty straightforward. A lot of tracking and management and adjusting on the fly, which I was able to mention. But however, when it got to these principles and like these CVP analysis, TVM analysis, it was harder for me because I had to kind of contextualize it in a way on the spot that the judge was able to understand it and also like kind of develop the solution. So my biggest advice for not getting stuck on the spot doing that, because as you can probably tell, I was stuttering. I was repeating phrases again and again, and some of the things I had said just didn't make a lot of sense. I think the best thing to do is just revise those Quizlet terms, especially for BFS. BFS is a very content-heavy event because it's so easy to, like, everybody in BFS is able to give good delivery. However, not everyone is able to, deliver great content. So for BFS, I'd highly recommend looking at your performance indicators, reviewing them, because they're very different than other events like marketing events where it's just like explain the marketing mix. These are much more specific and much more difficult as well. And for all of you who are studying for your state's competitions or ICDC coming up in April, I highly recommend using Prelo.ai. Prelo.ai is a ultimate suite of DECA tools completely backed by artificial intelligence. So we have roleplay generations, roleplay scoring, we have like live video recording, we have an exam section, we have a performance indicator section, and very soon we're going to add a creativity library for you guys to utilize. So check it out now. Go to Prelo.ai. Lifetime usage is only $15, so it's highly recommended by hundreds of students in the DECA community.